Welcome to Not So Silent. We'll say what you can't. We think we're right, but I wouldn't bet on it. All right, let's get started. We got episode 20, big show here. Huge show. It's our 20th show. So it's very exciting. Unfortunately, we don't have Chris today. Maybe it'll actually be much more engaging without him. All I have is Sean. Welcome to Sean.
Oh, that's all. That's all.
Yes, all we have is Sean. Sorry, guys. So please do me a favor before we get rocking and rolling. Subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Please go click the subscribe button. I promise you'll like what you're about to see. And if you don't, well, don't unsubscribe. Or follow us on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or Spotify or whatever medium you're listening in on.
I think we got blocked on Spotify, Taylor.
Did we really?
Yeah, because I wear a Joe Rogan hat during the podcast, so we're taken off Spotify, I think.
Oh, man, the censorship. Well, we'll talk about censorship in a little bit. Gosh. All right, so today we got a lot to go over, though. We got all about the debate yesterday, the second, I guess, and final debate. Who won? What were the big moments? Lockdowns are happening again. We're going to talk about that. We got some serious or satire, some really good serious or satire stuff. We got a little bit of prognostication station, and then our top five things we should be talking about. We all know what we were talking about last night at the debate and in the media, but what should we be talking about? Because there's some big stuff that's missing, arguably bigger than what we're talking about. All right, so let's get talking about the debate. All right, so quick, we're going to go right into it. Sean, your reaction on last night's debate. Who won it?
I mean, it's pretty obvious. Like, check the polls, right? Like, the post-debate polls are pretty clear. 90% of the conservative site polls say Trump won, and 60% of the liberal site polls say that Biden won. So, obviously, nobody won.
Who won, Sean? Come on.
I think it was I try to figure out what the point of these things is. I saw a funny tweet about how if you've already casted your ballot and you're watching the debate, you are a sick, disturbed person who would put themselves through this when you've already voted. And I think that's what many of the viewers of the debate are, is people who've already made up their mind. I like to sit on the fence, so I would consider myself an undecided voter. And I think there were, in certain areas, certain candidates performed, Trump performed really well and Biden performed well in other areas. I think Trump usually starts off really well. I think he started off really well. I think his analysis of COVID, Biden really only had one talking point on COVID, which is that Trump knew it was bad in January and didn't tell anybody. And Trump pretty easily refuted that with his, I shut down China and you didn't want me to do that. So I think he won there, and I think Trump crushed him on the energy stuff. Shocking to see Biden say, we'll just forget about oil. Like, we don't need any oil anymore. That was kind of shocking. So I think Trump did well in those areas. Usually more in the social stuff, the race stuff. Biden tends to do better. But Trump's been hitting him pretty hard with the crime bill stuff. So there's a lot of independent people out there that are making up their own minds. And if you pay attention to, social media apps like a TikTok, there's lots of people gaining massive followings out there that are, from minorities and diverse groups that are not on Biden's side here. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the election.
All right. So here's my reaction. Trump absolutely pummeled Biden.
I thought that's what you would think.
Well, again, I don't make any bones about it. I think people probably who watch know my political leanings. And I get it. Trump is not the greatest human being of all time. I'm not advocating for that. I wouldn't want my daughters to necessarily marry a person like him. But in terms of being a president, I have liked a lot of his policy. So, but when I watched that, and I was pretty critical of Trump in the first debate because I thought he lost it. A lot of people said they both lost. I really thought Trump lost that one more because Biden at least showed up and therefore he got the win. And yes, he showed he would fight or whatever. Trump, I thought, was obnoxious and did not do much for that one. In this one, Trump absolutely pummeled Biden and it wasn't close. And last night, like I promised, I was live tweeting. For those of you please follow us at notsosilentpod, at notsosilentpod on Twitter. And I was live tweeting throughout it. You can see all the different tweets that I put out there yesterday. And I thought he crushed it. I really did. In fact, I didn't find any down moments truly for Trump. I'd like for you to tell me when you thought he was really bad. I saw a couple of missed opportunities when they did talk about race for him to jump in and talk about what he's done with Ice Cube, what he did with Kanye West. He talked a lot about prison reform and the historically black colleges. He's brought that up a bunch. But the new stuff that he's doing with Ice Cube, I don't know why that wasn't highlighted, because Ice Cube is highlighting it. And so a couple of my thoughts outside of Trump crushed him. Let's see. The moderator I thought was by far the best of any moderator between 2016 and now. I thought she was excellent, and mad props to her. I tweeted that 10 minutes later. Trump said, "You're doing a great job." And I thought she was. I was sad to see Fox News right after the debate immediately went to, she interrupted Trump 24 times to 2 times for Biden or whatever. I thought that was trying to make a story out of a no story. I thought she was awesome. I thought she allowed them both to talk, kept it pretty close to being on time. I thought she was good. Mute topic, not a big topic at all. It really, the mute button wasn't used, and that's probably because both of the candidates didn't need to get muted, right?
Yeah, sure. It was a debate Cold War. It was, we've got the nuke and we'll drop it if you make us. And so they behaved well knowing that it was an option.
They did. So now here's my thoughts. Biden has literally 2 things, and that 2 things only that he continues to push. It's sad because this is the entire basis of his campaign is, number 1, 200,000 people have died from COVID, and Donald Trump was in office when it hit. It's his fault. That's it. That's all he can say. And even though you can refute it, like I did on Twitter and got into an argument with a lady where I said, look, the original models said 2.2 million would die. 200,000 or just north of that have. So in many ways, you could say he did a good job. It's still a lot of lost life, but he did do a pretty good job relative to the original models. And her response to me was, I don't know what model you're talking about. The only things I've seen are 200,000, in which I responded, well, the Imperial College of London cited, that was the most preeminently cited model early on. And she said, oh, that's 6 months old. Well, she clearly doesn't understand data analytics, and all the models are based on the information they had at the time, said 2.2 million would die, 200,000 have, and maybe it'll be 300,000 or whatever, but certainly slowed the death there. I thought Trump, and then Biden's other play is vote on character. Look into the screen and go, I'm from Scranton. Vote on character. And this is at the same day that all the Hunter Biden corruption stuff is coming out. And he says, vote on character. That's all Biden has. He really has nothing else to stand on other than.
Well, he's playing not to lose, right? So he's just running the ball, trying to get the clock to run out, taking a knee, not trying to ruffle any feathers, because in his mind, he's winning, and the polls have said he's winning, and he's running. Really, if you look at just the past, 3 months, I think Trump's done very well. And if you were in a coma and you woke up on September 1st and said, hey, I've been out for the last 5 years, what happened? And somebody just presented the facts, said, hey, we're not in war in any of these other countries. The economy did really well. A virus hit that nobody expected or knew what to do about. And they thought too many people were going to die. 200,000 people have died. Most people are wearing masks pretty much everywhere. And it's not really that big of a deal. But, Trump says some stuff and tweets some stuff that's bad. I think the average person would keep him around for another 4 years. And
that's why in the most recent Gallup poll, 56% of Americans say they're in a better spot now than they were 4 years ago. And that's why, again, and we'll get to prognostication next week on the actual election. I think it's going to be a Trump by a landslide. Chris and I already prognosticated last night, made me feel even better about it. A couple other things. Biden talks about a dark winter, and Trump says, Joe, we can't lock ourselves in the basement like you do. I found Trump to be more optimistic, at least, about we've got to get through this. We can't let this own us. And Biden is trying to peddle fear, But then he says, Trump, you're trying to peddle fear. And it's the exact opposite. Biden.
Yeah, I think that's a point Trump crushed, was the point of we don't all have the luxury that you have of just hiding away. I wish I could do that. I can't. He crushed that point. And I think my favorite Biden screw up of the night was his comment that I've seen a lot of people give him credit for, where he said, I'm trying to unite the country. I don't look at red states and blue states, but look at the red states. And a bunch of people gave him credit for wanting to unite the country around not looking at red and blue states. And he immediately looked at, what are the red states doing? What was that?
That is in one of the tweets was, he said, I'm not red state, blue state. I'm for the United States. And the very next sentence he says, and the red states are spiking.
It was Daniel Jones. I mean, he was Daniel Jones. He's running to the wide open touchdown and he just tripped and fell over himself. I don't know what happened there. He had a great point and he just blew it up there.
Biden.
Where I do think Trump lost is the tax return stuff. I do think people question how legitimate of a business guy is this guy? Are his businesses actually profitable? Is he actually good at running a business, or does he just do things to make money that aren't,
that's where I would say. That's where I would say I think Trump was neutral. I don't know if he lost because he was neutral. I thought his response was, when I was impeached, everyone in Congress saw every single thing. And then when they tried to bring up this whole Chinese bank account, he just quickly said, yeah, I opened it in 2015. What are you talking about? I have to disclose all of this. Nothing's hidden here. So I thought it was neutral at best. It's not Trump's great point, but I thought it was neutral. And then here's what I thought was interesting. I don't know if you could see, this was clearly in Biden's playbook, was he's going to hit me on Hunter Biden. I need to be aggressive and offensive. And he started the Russia hoax prior to Hunter Biden coming up. So it was Biden who opened up the door to it by trying to get in front of it and going, Russia, Russia, you're Russia, Russia, Russia. And I think, at least I'd like to think, most of the American public is smart enough to go, dude, the guy was impeached on this whole Russia thing. We spent 3 years going down the Russia train and it came up empty. And yet Biden somehow is going to try to claim, and so is the media. This is the saddest part about it. And we'll talk about this in a second. So is the media going to try to claim that the Hunter Biden's laptop is somehow Russia, is trying to drum up stuff for Biden. But even the intelligence community, both the FBI and the National Director of Intelligence, both said there is no credibility that we know of as of now that Russia is involved even in the least on this. Your son is a moron. He is beyond stupid, and he has gotten you in a lot of hot water. And Joe, you're screwed. And yet he tried to get out in front of it by starting with the Russia. I don't think it played very well. I think more and more people are going to get involved in this because of the laptop, and there's more credibility to it every day. There's more emails being released and people corroborating them and so on. I think this is going to be bad. And then the debate almost finished off with probably Biden's greatest line, which was, we need to get rid of the oil industry. And I think the DNC was like, oh my God.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
I'm surprised that the DNC doesn't have a button that they can push that just like blacks out every TV and streaming service across America and just like hits the button right before.
Like a reverse life alert for Biden.
Yeah, exactly. It's like one of those, like they do the taping of it's like on a 7-second delay, and they hear him saying, they just hit it immediately. And we all wonder what he just said.
We're going to commercial.
Yeah. We're like, what just happened? It's like, oh my gosh, did he just say what I thought he said? That he wants to get rid of the oil industry? That is not going to play well in the key battleground state of Pennsylvania for sure. So I thought Biden got destroyed last night, but to your point, 50 million people have already voted. 50 million.
Yeah. I mean, the winner is definitely of that conversation is Elon Musk. He's pumped.
Uh-huh.
He's already kind of on the Trump side of things, or allegedly. And then Biden's like, and I'll get rid of oil. And he's like, I don't care who wins. This is great.
Yeah. So, and I'm glad I own a lot of Tesla stock. So, and Neo stock. Neo stock's doing really nice for me too. So again,
you Chinese oligarch, you are such a hypocrite over there making money in China.
Oh, well, yeah. Hey, come on. I don't have the luxury of Joe Biden of making money off of these countries while I sit in my basement.
Why
So
can't you get your sons to work for some energy company overseas?
I wish I had that kind of clout. I would totally be the most corrupt politician if I could.
I mean, your 10-year-old has at least the credentials that Hunter has.
Probably. All right. So here's the next thing I wanted to move into. So I think the debate, I think everyone who watched it saw a pretty clear picture. Will it impact the election? I think a little bit. I think it moves the needle again. I think what you're going to see is the polls that'll come out this week are going to get back to the polls that we expect, which is it's going to be a close race in the polls. I think Trump's going to smoke him.
Why didn't they talk about the mail-in balloting and the Supreme Court, and how did those topics get avoided?
I tweeted that last night. How exactly did the packing the courts get avoided? Because arguably it is the most important topic. It is the one that will fundamentally change our country more dramatically than anything else, which is if Biden gets in, he's going to pack the courts, or potentially, right? And he has yet to answer that. And somehow, maybe this is why they planted Hunter Biden's laptop so they would stop talking about packing the courts, because somehow, some way, we're not talking about packing the courts, and we'll get to that in our top 5, but I don't know why that's not being discussed in more depth. So I don't know. A
lot of things that I don't know why aren't discussed that we'll talk about in the top 5.
That's our demo. You might have hit on one of mine and one of my big ones. So here's a question for you. How is the media getting away with this? How are they getting away? You started off by saying how partisan the media is. How is the media getting away with this?
So bad. I flip back and forth between CNN and Fox whenever I want to see what's going on in politics, and I watch them about equally. I give both candidates, because that's essentially what it is. They're political machines for their candidates, and they just shill their candidate, and that's it. And oh my gosh, CNN, they went to this after debate live, 11 undecided voters. Who are they going to pick? Oh my gosh, 9 of them think Joe Biden won. 2 of them think it was a tie. Nobody thinks Donald Trump won. Over here on Hannity, we're going to Don Trump Jr. And holy cow, did we crush it tonight. We won every poll out there. Just look at what the Daily Wire and the Blaze and their polls say. Look at Clay Travis's poll. 90% of the 150,000 votes on his poll, selected Donald Trump as the winner. And it's like, come on, guys. We know who's stumbling on a CNN poll.
Hang on. I'm gonna have to fight you on this though, and go. You're right on the CNN side, and yes, Hannity, sure, Fox News, yeah, Hannity is.
There's some Fox people I like, but man, Hannity is such a raging.
He's Donald Trump's PR wing. I get it, but and I get you have Don Jr. and then you have they should have Hunter. Hunter should be like Don Jr. because that would be awesome to listen to him talk. But so yeah, they had their surrogates come on and talk.
You can tell Don Jr. is getting into politics.
Oh yeah, and he's gonna crush it. So you have, I get the post coverage, but when it comes to Fox News, just to clarify what you're talking about, Fox News. CNN has 11 of these quote unquote undecided voters, which they've already been called out for, because much of the time they have these undecided voters. But 3 months earlier, those same actors were the Democrats and
registered.
This has been they're getting called out pretty hard on this. Now, Fox News, when they talked about who won, they used a WGN flash poll, which was the same flash poll that was used at the last one. The first debate, and that was like 50-50 or something. And it was 74-24 for Trump in this one. And again, I think objectively you could see why I thought Biden did poorly in this one.
So will it matter?
I don't know. I promise you, you know what won't matter? It won't matter in the media. And it's frustrating the crap out of me. Here's a news article that came out yesterday from NBC News. And this is not opinion. This is in their tech news section. Inside the campaign to Pizzagate, in quotes, Hunter Biden. It's a lengthy article trying to explain how the Hunter Biden laptop is similar to Pizzagate for Hillary Clinton. They're trying to basically throw this, and they're actually explaining how crazy it is.
Just a QAnon conspiracy.
Yeah, that's the craziest part is they talk about Pizzagate, which was spread only on like the far alt-right websites, is the same as what's going on with Hunter Biden, but now crazy, it's actually hit mainstream media is what they've said. And I'm going, oh my gosh, the FBI has been investigating this for a year. We have senators who are following up on this, who have been investigating it. We have actual like veteran in the military who has come out, who is part of this and exclaimed it. Not to mention Hunter's too. I mean, there was smoke there prior to any of this. There was a lot of smoke. The fact that Hunter Biden was being paid tens of thousands of dollars a month to work in energy in Ukraine and had literally no job prior to that. Which
have you ever had the thought, just on a personal level, of like, I don't understand how people do bad things, because with the technology that exists right now and cell phones and tracking and things like that, how in the world would anyone ever think they're going to get away with doing bad things? You know, somebody that runs a Ponzi scheme, somebody that cheats on their spouse, somebody that just does something, you know, that is they know is wrong. They plan a bank robbery and they always get caught by the GPS in their car or the cell phone pinging off the tower or the text messages. And, you know, I would have said a year or 2 years ago, like, I just don't think bad things really happen in the world as much because people know they're going to get caught, because there's no way to hide from it. Now, all this stuff makes you go, everybody can just do bad things and go, it's fake news. It's totally fake news. I don't know what's millions of dollars. This nice house. I don't know where it came. I mean, it's just a fake thing.
If you're a liberal and you espouse to their ideas, you can burn down buildings, and it's just called a peaceful protest, mostly peaceful protest, or you're doing it for good reason. Or you can be Hunter Biden and really it's just Pizzagate. They're trying to screw with you. None of this stuff is true because, well, that fits the narrative, and that's NBC News in their tech news. Not in their opinion, in their tech news. Somehow this is how we are Pizzagating the Hunter Biden story. It's remarkable to me. I just cannot understand. The media in general, press and journalism, is beyond dead. There is no one with any sort of objectivity whatsoever. Not whatsoever. And it's remarkable. Even Jeffrey Toobin, who we talked about in the last podcast, who got caught masturbating, which was awesome, the CNN legal analyst. And that's like trying to be swept under the rug, and people are like, give him a second chance. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I want. Could you imagine watching Jeffrey Toobin right now? I'm just wondering what's going on below the line of the screen.
Don't even know who that is.
He's the legal wow. You got to watch Chris and mine's episode. That's sad. You don't even watch. That's sad. All right, so let's move on to some more fun stuff. So Debate Central we talked about. Let's get into a little bit of sports news. Here. The Big Ten is back, baby. The Big Ten. Big Ten.
Late.
What?
Better late than never, or bad timing?
Better late than never. Tonight, Wisconsin kicks off against Illinois. How about that? I'm excited to watch Wisconsin. My boys, the Badgers, they're going to beat up on my other alumni, U of I, and they're going to kick the crap out of them. So I am excited to see Big Ten football is back, even though now I live in SEC country. I will be proud Big Ten supporter down here. So are you excited about Big Ten football?
I mean, I feel like it's such an awkward timing. Like, wait, your season's starting now? Are you a different sport? Is it wrestling? What are you doing? Oh, you're right? Football.
Can you imagine?
Starts now? We already started it a while ago.
Yeah, well, wait till you see like USC versus University of Washington. That's going to kick off or something in like mid-November. It's weird because high school football has been going on here for 7 weeks, and we're just starting Big Ten football now. And seems a little bit backwards because it's colder up there, but I don't know. So yes, it is better late than never. At least the kids are going to get a chance to play. I want to see Justin Fields play. And if it plays out anything like what we've seen college football so far, I think you are going to see wild amounts of upsets Ohio State's going to lose to Minnesota, and Michigan is going to, beat Penn State, and you're going to see stuff that you were not expecting to see, like we've been seeing. We're really just Alabama and Clemson are kind of holding strong, but everyone else seems to be expected in certain games.
Let that be an alert to Nebraska fans out there to expect the unexpected, so you may not be disappointed this year.
Yeah, right. Exactly. All right. Anything else in sports news? Sports has been a little bit quiet because we've been talking so much about politics and the race.
Yeah. You got Antonio Brown pretty soon making his appearance back in the NFL. Everybody kind of forgot about him. Excited to see what he tweets in the coming weeks and the videos that.
Yeah. So who's he going to beat up?
You think Seahawks?
Yeah.
So what I don't understand is why the Seahawks are the team that he's tied to. It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, you got Metcalf and Lockett. You have weapons there. I mean, I guess if he was a tight end, Greg Olson's about 90 years old, so they could use a tight end. But why is Antonio Brown linked to the Seahawks?
Why not? I think we've seen that. Why did the Chiefs go out of their way to pick up LaShawn McCoy? I mean, they have
Le'Veon Bell.
Le'Veon Bell. Sorry, Le'Veon Bell. They have the they have the brand new rookie, the weapon, and then they have weapons with Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. Why'd they have to go after Bell? Because good teams want to get better, I guess. And the Seahawks right now, I think they're seeing their defense stinks, and so they just need to find a way to score 50 points instead of 40 and give Russell Wilson another weapon.
I don't know what the Texans cap situation is, but if I'm the Texans, I'd be going after him hardcore. After giving up DeAndre Hopkins and DeAndre Hopkins being the best receiver in the NFL, I'd make a big push. The Ravens were rumored in the Antonio Brown stuff, and then they just kind of decided they weren't interested. Now they're maybe going to sign Des Bryant to the practice squad. So I'm excited to see who Chad Johnson and Terrell Owens sign with this year.
Yeah, Jerry Rice is rumored to be playing for the Bears coming up soon, which is exciting. Yeah, maybe he can fix our quarterback woes. How about that? We didn't get a chance to talk, Sean. What did you think of the Packers game this past weekend against the Buccaneers, the team that the Bears had beaten the week prior? What'd you think of it?
I didn't watch it, so I was pretty happy that I didn't watch it.
Well, I did.
So watching it after the fact, I mean, the game got away from them in the first half with some bad turnovers, and they never made the attempt to get back into it. So, I mean, it was a weird game with ugly momentum, and losing Bakhtiari just totally changes their offense completely. They need to re-sign him in the offseason because he's a potential free agent. We've let all of our stud offensive linemen walk in the last few years, and they're going to need to figure out a way to get him back.
All right. Well, Packers suck and Bears are awesome. All right. So moving on to Gambler's Corner. You weren't here on Tuesday when we found out that you're the worst of the three of us at gambling, and that's good. And Chris had won the parlay. And so I tweeted this out. We started with our Thursday game, Eagles and Giants last night. I'm glad. I think the NFL was the schedule maker, basing it the fact that we had the debate. They put maybe the worst game of the week on, which is any NFC East matchup. The Eagles and Giants last night. I could not have cared less about that game. The NFC East, I don't even think they could play in the SEC. The teams are so bad. And the Eagles were favored by 4.5. You, Chris, and I all picked the Eagles to win by 4.5. And somehow the Eagles were down by 12 or down by 11 late. They ended up winning 22-21. So we all lost our first bet of the week, sadly.
How about Antonio Brown to the Eagles? The division's still wide open, and they need some weapons.
How about the Eagles? Literally 2/3 of their skill position starters are hurt and out. They've
been that way for like 2 years. They've never had a healthy receiver.
The second Alshon Jeffrey left the Bears to them, they have been like that. They have not had a healthy receiver, and Carson Wentz has been in and out of the lineup for that same 2 or 3 or 4 year period of time. And when they're all healthy, they are a very good team. And I'm still
a Super Bowl.
I'm still surprised at how good they are, or at least competent they are, given the amount of injuries. Because I really think if the Bears had lost the same amount of players, the Bears would not have won a game yet. Like if the Bears had
I think if last year, like if Trubisky got hurt, the Bears might have gone like 14-2.
Yeah, they might have actually won more games. Unfortunately, he has stayed healthy. Sad as that is. Well, now he's on the bench.
Well, and then you got some news about Ryan Fitzpatrick losing his job. You see the interview with Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Yeah. I mean, I felt bad for the guy, but at the same time, he's getting paid. He did say, he's like, I guess I just got fired. So it's like, well, I'd like to get fired and still make a couple $1 million. It'd be cool. I'd be okay with that. All right. So would you have done the same thing? Would you have benched him for Tua this early?
Yeah.
With how well he's playing?
Yeah. Ryan Fitzpatrick's not the future. He's fun to have. You sign him because of the swagger and the fan favorite, just get some attention, and he put some stats up, but he's not ultimately a winner. He'll win some games, but he's a journeyman quarterback. So you got to get to the future and see what you got in Tua and get Tua out there. And I think they probably should have never moved on from Tannehill, as that's playing out nicely for Tannehill in Tennessee.
Yeah, you think? And how about Derrick Henry? Have you ever looked at Derrick Henry's high school stats?
It's incredible, like 400 yards a game and 19 touchdowns. I mean, you look at the line by line, 350 yards, 7 TDs, 20 carries, 199 yards, 4 TDs, 18 carries, 340 yards, and 6 TDs. You're like, yep. What is this?
Yeah, for anyone who wants to see what Guinness Book of World Records could look like, look up Derrick Henry's senior year of high school rushing stats. They're otherworldly. I mean, they're shocking to see, and then it's not surprising to see how good he is in the NFL. So
yeah, it took him a while to get it going. The storyline in the first couple of years of his career was, why can a guy this athletic not produce on the field? And somehow he's figured it out, and the guy is unstoppable. I mean, he is a 99 across the board Madden character. He's the first guy with 99 speed and 99 break tackle. And in the league, it's awesome.
All right, let's move on to serious or satire. Serious or satire? I got a bunch for you. Serious or satire? I have a bunch for you. All right. Senator Hirano demands Amy Coney Barrett be weighed against a duck to see if she's a witch.
Satire.
You know why I bring this one up, Sean?
Because they would do that.
No, Sean, you clearly are not watching enough of what's going on in the world. This was in the Babylon Bee, and this is not really meant for serious or satire. This is really meant for journalism is dead, or the tech giants have become too big. The Babylon Bee has now been shut down by Facebook. They're shut down.
Dude, you got to my serious or satire of Facebook cancels satirical fake news site for being fake news. Serious or satire?
It's mind-blowing if you look into this. For those of you listening right now who think, oh, this is all Alex Jones conspiracy theorists when we're talking about the tech giants and social media, it's not. This is crazy. Facebook has shut down the Babylon Bee, which is like The Onion from when we were a little bit younger. The Onion still exists. It's not as funny as the Babylon Bee is. And they have shut down the Babylon Bee because they say that they should essentially burn ACB at the stake, which it's a quote from a Monty Python, the Monty Python movie, and they're shut down from it. And that wasn't just the algorithm shut them down. They then had people at Facebook looked at it and decided, no, this doesn't fit our not privacy policy, but our hate speech or whatever. And they're like, we're a satirical commentary website. And they said, too bad.
Are you familiar with Poe's Law?
No.
Poe's Law was originated on a Christian internet forum. And the law essentially states that without a blatant display of humor, like a winky smiley or some indication, it's impossible to parody things in a way that someone won't mistake for genuine beliefs on the internet.
Right. Well,
so satire is just impossible on the internet. Facebook believes it now too. You can't even be satirical, or people might mistake it for real.
It's remarkable to me, and this follows up with the New York Post being shut down on Twitter Twitter will not release their lock on it until they take down the Hunter Biden article, which is shocking, but because that is pretty big news, and Twitter has blocked them and will not release the block until they take down their post. So, all right, my next one. Baby shampoo may inactivate coronavirus.
Serious.
It is. Actually, it's mouthwash and baby shampoo may inactivate corona.
I was actually going to say mouthwash. The mouthwash thing keeps coming up. That came up right at the beginning. And it's like, well, don't trust the mouthwash. And now they're back to like, can't hurt.
So there is a Penn State professor who is doing research on it and is saying that mouthwash and 1% baby shampoo solution. So everyone out there, go get some baby shampoo and start gurgling that around in your mouth. I actually think it might be on the body, but I don't know. Maybe you should inject the bleach. Whoa. All right. Subaru introduces camera that automatically records drivers melting down about Trump.
Well, obviously satire.
I thought it was pretty good though. Let's see. Texas passes law banning Californians from voting in Texas.
Satire.
That is, but they should do
They should do it. They should do it.
They should do that.
You got to have a period of time that you have to, be a Texan before. You got to get your boots and your hat and everything before you
All right,
can register to vote.
You're doing well so far. I guess you're listening. I don't normally listen when Chris talks, but all right. Here's a headline. Please stop putting razor blades in food, including pizza.
Satire.
That is serious.
This is like a Halloween candy thing.
No, this was in takeout.com or whatever, takeout publication. Professional.
Let me hit you with a couple quick.
Food Safety News reports that New England area grocery store chain Hannaford Supermarkets has had to expand a recall on frozen pizza dough to include the Portland Pie brand after what believed to be further malicious tampering incidents involving metal objects inserted into Portland Pie products. So
we need a decent amount of time for our top 5 today. So let me hit you with a couple real quick. A touchless pinball machine was developed in Seattle, so arcades can stay open during coronavirus.
Serious.
It is. I was shocked that pinball machines still exist and arcades still exist. And instead of finding a cure for coronavirus, some engineer was developing a touchless pinball machine, apparently thinking there'd be a return on investment. Whoever invested in that business, I have some things to sell you.
Yeah, right. Arcades. Hey, you know what? A roller skating rink is another great business to get into.
A liberal group is encouraging people to vote for Trump so they can spend the next 4 years building momentum. They're concerned that if Biden is elected, it will destroy the Democratic Party.
Satire.
That is satire.
Yeah, I mean they're crazy people. I can't even.
I mean, it wouldn't be a bad strategy though if you were really,
If
I
you
don't know that Biden's gonna.
If you had said a Florida liberal group or liberal group in Florida, I might have said yes.
Okay, and then last one is a 9-month pregnant woman in California ran a sub 6-minute mile.
Serious.
Yeah, it's serious, and I was shocked.
Yeah. Hey, I'm
mile time, and that somebody in California was allowed to be classified as a gender and be pregnant, and
fair enough. My last one, Hormel is releasing bacon-scented face masks so you can smell bacon everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. I kind of want to get one of those. I'm totally against the whole buying masks because I think that's stupid. I'll just wear whatever someone gives me. But Hormel, the bacon-scented one, I might do that.
That's a good marketing. I like it.
I like it too. All right. Let's move on. We got our top 5. Move on. Put up the banner.
Top 5.
Top 5 things we should be talking about, and we're not. So the debate yesterday, we talked about, let's see, American families. We talked about energy and climate change. We talked about race. We talked about COVID.
Foreign dealings
Yeah,
we
but we
talked about.
didn't. We didn't. Yeah, we talked about Hunter Biden's laptop, but we didn't get into what I think and you think are some really important things. So, top 5 things we should be talking about.
Huge. And these can be good topics for upcoming shows. We want to hear from the fans. So let us know which of these topics you want us to talk about in future shows, and maybe have some segments on. We covered COVID every week for 10 shows. Let's find another topic that we can.
And you can do that by going to facebook.com/notsosilentpod or Instagram or Twitter @notsosilentpod and let
And
us
listen
know.
to us on Spotify while you still can.
Yeah, there you go. Before we get canceled. All right, Sean, you go first with your number 5.
Number 5, the student loan crisis and the cost of education. It has been talked about in debates. No real good solutions have been presented. You got the Elizabeth Warrens of the world that want to just cancel all student loan debt. And then you got school choice on the other side. But that's not really a university affecting issue. It's huge. For those of you that don't know, the end of September, about a month ago, the government publishes student loan default rates that affects university funding. And it was canceled this year due to COVID because due to the CARES Act, all student loans were made good by the government. So nobody's having to make their payment right now if they choose not to. So there is no student loan default rate, which means next year, holy cow, I just don't understand why it isn't something that's talked about more. The thresholds are horrible. You can have a university that has 30% of their students default and they can still get funding. And it's like a red flag if they do that many years in a row. And if they cross 40%, then the government's like, maybe we shouldn't give them grants. I don't know of any lending that works with a 40% default rate or a 30% default rate. I think schools, the whole system's just messed up. It should be completely just overhauled. There's a lot of ideas to fix it. Massive open online courses, all kinds of tech innovation, maybe things that won't make teachers and administrators happy, but that can help the public get educated at a much lower cost.
So was this your number 5 or was this a whole new topic for you?
Dude, I mean, I think we could do several segments on it, but how is that?
I have. We should do a whole college episode because I have a lot of information on college athletics and colleges in general. Well,
there's more good ones in the top 5. So fans, again, tell us what you want us to talk about because we got some passionate topics that aren't being talked about in the presidential debates. What's your number 5?
My number 5, foreign threats. So ever since we were kids, Sean, there has been a foreign threat. And this is frankly, to Donald Trump's credit. We don't have any foreign threats. We don't have any issues in the Middle East. In fact, no one is talking about this isn't quite the Middle East. It sort of is. Sudan, Trump just announced today, Sudan is jumping on with UAE and Bahrain to recognize Israel. So the stabilization of the Middle East is happening. But when we grew up, it was Iraq, or it was Iran, or Afghanistan, or then it was North Korea. I guess we have China, but it doesn't really, it feels more like trade war than actual war. But we need to start talking about what are the real foreign threats that are going to happen in the next 10 years. I get that there isn't one currently, but we need to protect ourselves against, because being the largest country in the world, largest economy, we got a big target on our back and no one's talking about it. I'm not worried about Canada, but there are definitely countries that are probably growing, or countries or groups of people like an ISIS that are growing in nature that we need to be concerned about. And I guess Antifa is too domestic to be fall in this category, but foreign threats. All right, Sean, your number 4.
My number 4, their team. Every entrepreneur that pitches to investors is required to talk about their team, and the expectation is that we're going to invest in the people. It's not just one person. And these presidential candidates, obviously we have a VP debate, but there's so many people around them in their cabinets. I want to hear, if Biden's elected, who's he putting in charge of education? Who's he putting in charge of all the different, State Department, the Fed, everything that actually runs the country? I want to hear more about the team and the experts and how we're going to get the right people in those seats, some of which keep their jobs a lot longer than the 4-year president. Because
I think some of what I think some of it is Trump's team because they're already in there, and frankly, I think Biden's team is being quietly because again the media knows that the right doesn't want to hear about it, so they're pushing it to the left. Like Beto O'Rourke is going to be the gun czar because the left loves hearing that, but boy, the right or the middle hate that. And so I think it's being quietly disseminated. You can find more of that information of people like they've talked about Bernie Sanders being part of it, AOC being a major part of climate change, etc. So they have talked about their team. It's just not getting out to the mainstream, and that's probably why you're not hearing about it. So that's a good one, their team, and that should have been brought up yesterday, and it wasn't. All right, my number 4, what to do about small businesses dying. Specific sectors like restaurants. We didn't get to lockdowns today. Ireland just released another. They're doing a full shelter in place right now. The whole country of Ireland just moved to that, which is terrifying. Chicago, where I'm from, and many of the counties around it just shut down, went back to phase 3 where restaurants and bars are closed again for anything indoor. Gyms, things like that. Any non-essential starts to get closed down or very, very low capacity. What's going to happen to all of these small businesses that are going to die off, and how specific sectors, retail, really specifically the hospitality industry, what are we going to do with them? Which ones should we allow to die off? I saw an article, Mr. Wonderful said, let the airlines die off. They're zombie companies anyway. And then how are we going to protect these small business owners who put all their money into running a restaurant? They've been doing it for 7, 10, 12, some 40 years, and they can't operate. They can't keep doing this. And just bailing them out is not the answer, I think. And so we're talking in such generalities of COVID and shutdown. We need to start talking about some of these small businesses in these sectors that are going to die off and how to repair that. Sean, you're number 3.
So, number 3, I have other countries, not what you're talking about in terms of foreign threats, but other countries in the sense of how do we compare and how are we different than other countries? The U.S. is still one of the largest increasers in immigration population. People want to come here. People from all over the world want to come here. And we talk about the problems that we have, that we have a poorly balanced budget, healthcare expenses are really high, race relations are a problem, but we don't talk about other countries. We don't talk about, is there a group of people in India that are being oppressed by other Indian people? Is there a group of people in China, maybe like Muslims in China that are being oppressed?
Like the Uyghurs? I don't know. Why don't we ask LeBron? Hey, at King James or whatever your Twitter handle is, what's going on in China, my man?
Well, there's so much in politics about what's wrong with the United States. And yet, if you look at the countries in the world that have the largest influx in population, the United States has some of the most immigrants coming to us. Why do they want to come, right? Why did my Irish ancestors and Italian ancestors want to come here? And that's not talked about. We're also one of the lowest in people leaving the United States to move to other countries, given population as a percentage of population.
America, baby. America.
Other countries, other people in other countries want to be here, and yet we seem to think the place is such a mess.
So. All right. Cue the bald eagle flying in on Sean's shoulder. All right. My number 3, the press completely losing any form of objectivity. The press and journalism it's a joke. You mentioned it and you're in the middle. And it is sad, but I really believe that I can tell by the way someone walks around outside, I can tell what news they watch. Like the people who are freaking out and they mask up like crazy and they wear like double masking and they have a face shield. Like I know they just watch CNN. I'm certain that it's all based on the news that they watch versus someone who, wears a mask, or my mom who will put on a mask and she's being careful but she's not nervous. She's not freaking out. I know what she watches. Like it's all based on the news because that's we're consuming it. And I think that's why, again, long form podcasts are growing because people are just done with it. But how do we get back to where journalism, we're used to say, I read this in the Wall Street Journal, therefore there's some objectivity to it. It must be real, or the New York Post or the New York Times. The New York Times and Washington Post are a joke, complete and utter joke. Same with Chicago Tribune. So
yeah, I mean, you're right. That's why the mainstream media won't talk about us. You don't see us being talked about on CNN or
Right.
Fox News because they're trying to keep us suppressed. So viewers, share it with your friends because the mainstream media is trying to hold us back.
You know what? Share it with Fox News. Post this on Fox News. Tell them that they need to start listening.
All right. So number 2, entrepreneurship and innovation. Everything we talk about with the economy and presidential debates is all about the stock market or unemployment. What are we doing for the future of jobs in this country and the future of technology and the future of dominating the world in economics? If you look at the top companies in the world by market cap, this is a little bit dated. This is from earlier in 2020, but you've got the Saudi Arabian oil company is the largest, and then you got Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Google, Facebook. Then you got Alibaba and Tencent that are based in China, and then we're back to United States with Berkshire Hathaway, Johnson & Johnson, Visa, and Walmart. And then it's Nestle in Switzerland. So most of the largest companies in the world are based in the United States, and many of those, the top 5, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Alphabet, and Facebook, all were developed within the last 50 years. So I want to hear, what did the president do to encourage innovation and entrepreneurship? How many new companies did we create that were going to create new jobs in the future? Not, how many people maybe got one of those low wage, labor jobs. I want white collar jobs getting created for the long run.
All right. But number 2, social media censorship. I think it's, and I know Fox News is talking about it, and I know it's a Tucker Carlson conspiracy theory, but man, they are censoring they're censoring the New York Post on Twitter for a very credible major national story because it doesn't fit their narrative. And as we talked about earlier, Facebook is censoring a satirical commentary website too, and it's just getting out of control. I want them, and people are saying they need to do more to protect against hate speech and everything else. I want them to do less. Why are they part of their whole thing is just a platform for people to talk. I don't want to go listen to a nasty person go spew off mean things, racist things, anti-religious things. Again, I'm a strong Christian guy. I don't want to hear it, but at the same time, freedom of speech. And if you want to post stupid stuff on a website, then go for it. But to have a team of people at Twitter telling us what things we can't listen to, I'm not all for that, especially people I didn't get to elect or had no part of choosing who they were there. So social media censorship. Sean, you're number 1.
Number 1 for me is pretty obvious, and that's government budgets. So most of the political issues in this country come down to how should the money be spent. And as much as the left hates the right and the right hates the left, and we talk about, Bernie Sanders and the crazy healthcare and the Green New Deal. Nobody's against clean energy and renewable energy sources. Nobody's against people having healthcare. Nobody's against limiting foreign involvement in wars and interfering in other countries. Nobody's for voter suppression. Nobody's actually, I think we all agree on a lot of these things. And where the disagreement between the two parties come from is how should the money be spent and where are we going to get the money to do it? And how much is it going to cost? But we don't ever look at that. We never go, hey, by the way, this department, this is how much tax dollars get brought in.
Hang on. We do. When they talk about climate change and Green New Deal and all this stuff, one side just wants to avoid it. Whatever side you're on, you want to avoid it if you're the one who's got
I'm talking you've seen the analogy of what if the government was a household, right? And you make this much a year and you have this much credit card debt and you have this much this is how much you spend on your house and this is how much you spend on food, right? I want to know what's the budget and what are we spending on these different things? How has that changed over time? And how is that good or bad for people? And I do think in recent history with both Trump and Bush, the conservatives have overspent in a lot of areas. And we're going to pay for it down the road. So overall, I want more. I think it's just the number 1 issue because all these issues of, people want every group and ethnicity and diverse people to be able to do well in the country. Nobody's against that. We all want everybody to do well and everybody to have the right to prosperity. And I can get around this. My number 1 was going to be, and I thought about going along with you and doing national debt, same concept. But instead, the thing that I think we need to talk about right now that we're not, packing the courts.
I just don't know why that somehow missed it is the number one most fundamental problem, fundamental change we will make to our democracy is packing the courts. And somehow we have a politician, Joe Biden, that the media has not held accountable to answering that question. Will you or won't you pack the courts? Because it's a big deal. Because if you do, you change how we've operated for the last 250 years. And that's a problem, or at least 200. So packing the courts is a big deal for me. So those are our top 5 things we need to talk about. Let us know what you think about those, what we did right, what we did wrong, things we missed. Please tell us. Those are going to be different topics we're going to discuss in the future. Sean, we should have a college episode. We're going to do that. All right. So again, please, if you like this, subscribe or follow us or whatever. And please tweet us and follow us at notsosilent.pod, at notsosilentpod, or go to facebook.com/notsosilentpod. All right, that's it. Episode 20 in the books. Bye. You got me going right around about.